Godzilla, the king of monsters and arguably the most iconic movie monster of all time. Garou, the human who idolizes monsters and ultimately becomes one, who fought the king of monsters of his own universe. This matchup just works, and I've been thinking about it for a long time. What if Garou had to fight Godzilla? I'll be covering the monsterverse Godzilla as I'm a huge fan of the films and I think he's the most interesting to talk about. I'd actually be open to making more monsterverse content if you guys are a fan of this video, so please let me know by liking this video and subbing to the channel. It really does mean a lot. With that in mind, let's get started. Godzilla has a long history in and out of universe, and this newer incarnation certainly lives up to the hype of his predecessors in its insanity. As an example, it's said that every nuclear bomb test in this universe was not a test and they were meant to take out Godzilla. And the meteor that hit the Earth that wiped out the dinosaurs hit Godzilla in the face. During the events of King of Monsters, Godzilla battles his eternal rival King Ghidorah for dominion over the entire planet. It's here that Ghidorah simply awakening caused giant storms across the entire planet, the largest of which almost covers all of South America. The energy required to create these storms has been calculated up to 44 petatons of TNT, which is about the same as 1 billion SAR nuclear bombs, or enough to destroy multiple continents at the same time. Some calculations even put Ghidorah's storms as having enough energy to crack moons apart, and this is just from him passively existing. Godzilla and Ghidorah fight many times, where Godzilla can damage him, tank his attacks, and it's stated numerous times that they were evenly matched. Later on in Kong vs. Godzilla, Godzilla fires his atomic breath all the way through the Earth just to throw hands with Kong. If we assume Godzilla just vaporized these rocks between him and Kong, it would be around enough to erase a continent off the map. However, Godzilla's atomic breath is said to function on the quantum level. If this is true, and Godzilla is atomizing everything his blast comes into contact with, him carving through the Earth would yield over 300 exatons to possibly 600 zetatons of TNT, which is enough to destroy moons and even planets. Godzilla would later use the same amount of energy against Mechagodzilla and loses, with many creatives and guides stating Godzilla was worn out and probably would have won if he was at his max. The art book even goes as far as to say Godzilla was at half his strength, meaning at full power Godzilla would be twice as strong as the aforementioned feat. And lore actually supports this level of power as well. No less than 3 times Kong is stated to have earth-shattering punches, or that his battle with Godzilla would destroy the Earth. In the movie, Kong is much weaker than Godzilla and seen as little more than a plaything.
If you look at Godzilla really carefully, like, he knows that he's kind of just playing with Kong the entire time. You know, like if you look at the ship battle fight, they had that kind of like moment where Kong is almost drowned and he's like laying on the boat and Godzilla shows up and they're kind of staring each other down. Godzilla's kind of laughing at him and like, okay, you know, like just stay right there and we're good, you know. And
even with his axe supercharged by Godzilla's own energy, all Kong manages to do is knock Godzilla down, with the movie novelization saying all it did was hurt his pride. Godzilla's own energy has been compared to that of all of Hollow Earth, with that energy being compared to that of supermassive black holes. His iconic atomic breath is consistently referred to as nature's most powerful weapon, with some executives saying this includes all forces in the universe, not just Earth, putting Godzilla's atomic breath above the likes of black holes, supernovas, and even gamma ray bursts. And of course, with his new film, Godzilla is only stronger than ever. You might be saying this is a little absurd for a big lizard that fights the army and giant monkeys, but Godzilla has always been weirdly powerful like that. We're talking about a guy almost as old as Superman and has fought the Justice League and the Avengers. Check out these guys for an idea of how weirdly OP this overgrown iguana can be. King of Monsters actually helped a lot with the research of this video, so be sure to give him some love. But yeah, it's definitely not inconsistent for Godzilla to be this strong. For speed, despite his size, Godzilla is surprisingly quick. Both his main opponents, Ghidorah and Kong, can dodge his atomic breath, which is stated to be composed of Cherenkov radiation, which moves at 75% the speed of light. Godzilla is also an extremely experienced being who has fought many titans over millions of years, maintaining the balance of the earth. He defeated the Shinomura, a threat to the entire world with the ability to rebuild itself from a single cell, as well as many other titans who are able to shape the entire earth, such as Shimo, who originally started the Ice Age. He has a supernatural awareness and understanding of the earth and can perceive energy around him, as well as absorb it and radiation to make himself more powerful. Oh yeah, he can also shoot big blue laser beams. Garou has always been a character with a lot of progression. We can safely skip the early forms of Garou who struggled with the lower ranked S-class. Things get way more interesting when Garou first appears on the surface during the Monster Association battle. Scaling Garou at this point is honestly a fairly difficult task, but we can look at the more impressive feats in the series up to this point to get a gauge as to how he might stack up. The absolute most impressive feat Garou could scale to is the destruction caused by the City Z meteor. This is because of his performance of the Sky Aura Ripping Fist, a technique capable of severely damaging Elder Centipede who was thought to be unstoppable calamity by the Hero Association. The Hero Association originally thought Genos and Metal Knight worked together to stop the meteor, but aren't sure if any hero other than King and Blast could defeat Elder Centipede. Elder Centipede is also generally held in the same degree as Goketsu, a monster Genos thinks could give Saitama a hard time, and he's literally seen Saitama destroy the meteor. That all said, Bang still believed destroying the meteor a nigh impossible feat, and the fact Saitama could do it made him possibly the strongest person Bang has ever met. This is very telling because Bang is still able to trade blows with Garou for a long time, so scaling Garou to this feat is definitely a bit of a stretch. At best, we can say Garou's most powerful attacks, like his combination martial arts, might be able to destroy the meteor. The impact of the City Z meteor has been calculated at over 865 gigatons of TNT. This level of energy, while seeming high, is over 10,000 times weaker than the storms Ghidorah made just by existing. Speed is pretty much not a factor at that point since Garou wouldn't have the firepower to even scratch an insanely low-balled Godzilla. For Garou to stand a chance against Godzilla, it's very fitting we need his feats against the similar, Titan-like Sage Centipede. Sage Centipede is a complicated character to discuss, and I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be, as I plan on making an in-depth video on Garou at a later date. At the bare minimum, Sage Centipede should scale above Monster King Orochi. Sage Centipede was summoned alongside his counterpart Evil Ocean Water to stop the fist turned against God, that being Saitama. When Saitama fights Orochi, the Monster King unleashes his full power, the Gaia Cannon. The Gaia Cannon draws a huge chunk of the Earth's core into Orochi, and the mere act of doing this causes earthquakes and volcano eruptions. This feat, again, just him powering up, has been calculated between 5 to 50 zetatons of TNT, or enough to destroy small planets. This attack gets countered by Saitama's squirt gun, and he gets one-punched. Orochi himself is directly connected to God, and was prophesied to become the sacrifice to bring about his resurrection. That combined with the fact that God summoned Sage Centipede on the sacrifice altar where Orochi was destroyed, makes me believe God should know what Orochi is capable of, and that he was soundly crushed by Saitama. If true, God would have to send minions that are stronger than Orochi in order to defeat someone who could one-shot Orochi. Therefore, Sage Centipede should overall be much stronger than Orochi. Garou can tank attacks from Sage Centipede and Evil Ocean Water, and by the end of the battle he bisects the Centipede from space, concretely putting him far above small planetary Orochi. As he fights Saitama, Garou gets much stronger, believing his new mutation with its overwhelming power might be enough to turn the tide, and this being the first of 3 mutations. With that, it's safe to say Garou now has the power to compete with Godzilla. Obviously, if you run with Godzilla being a starbuster, then it's not close at all. However, those arguments are a bit more questionable compared to the more consistent planetary feats and statements. On the question of speed, Garou has numerous faster-than-light feats. Even in his weakest form, he could keep up with people who easily dodge lasers, dodging faster than light horns from his own Monster King, and keeping up with the light speed Flashy Flash. During his fight with Platinum S, Garou does this, which, even insanely lowballing, has been calculated at 4 times the speed of light for both of them. By the end of the battle, Garou was so fast, Platinum S, who is 4 times the speed of light, couldn't even remotely react to Garou, meaning people up to 4 times the speed of light get left in the dust by him. Godzilla at 75% the speed of light could not even hope to keep up with. Godzilla does have an eternity of fighting skill and combat experience. However, Godzilla has never fought an opponent like Garou, whereas Garou is very adept at fighting opponents much larger and stronger than he is. He's fought Orochi before, and like I said, ultimately defeated Sage Centipede, whose total body length could climb all the way into space, let alone being around as big as an aircraft carrier. Garou boasts over a dozen unique fighting styles which give him access to attack nullification, power reflection, shockwave generation, durability negation. He's a highly talented and adaptive fighter with a natural-born fighting instinct. By his peak of his monsterization, he even developed regeneration, flight, and even Iron Man energy blasts. A good way to sum this up: take Kong, make him 1,000,000 times smaller but just as strong, wings like Ghidorah, faster than Godzilla can even see, and supremely more skilled. Simply put, how does Godzilla win? Well, if you go with the higher interpretations of Godzilla Scaling, he should be capable of matching or surpassing many stellar phenomena like black holes and supernovas. The force generated by the sun exploding is literally billions of times that of Garou's most impressive feats. In all honesty, for Garou to compete with a highballed Godzilla, he'd need to borrow the power of God like he did against Saitama. Garou in his Cosmic Fear mode has much the same lore as Godzilla, with him being able to understand and replicate all forces and energies in the universe, such as black holes, nuclear fission, and even gamma ray bursts. He's even shown punching away countless stars alongside Saitama, and being said he acquired the power to shake the entire universe. Garou's speed has also received a pretty notable upgrade, and he can keep up with full power Saitama, who darted around the moon of Io at over 500 times the speed of light. And add the fact Garou's even more skilled than he was before, with the ability to copy any ability or power Godzilla shows off. The one thing I can give Godzilla here is the fact Garou's iconic cosmic radiation wouldn't actually hurt Godzilla, but make him stronger, as the King of Monsters feeds off radiation. However, the problem is these amps aren't shown to be insanely significant at all. During his final battle with Ghidorah, Godzilla was empowered by a nuclear warhead, and he went from slightly weaker than Ghidorah to slightly stronger. The final result of the amp causing Godzilla to overload and heavily exhaust himself. Compare that to Garou, who can kinda just look at you and get stronger than you. It's safe to say the Hero Hunter takes it.